Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. Next up on Whitetail Rendezvous is John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. John's been an agronomist for over 25 years, and with the rage and the explosion of food plots, he's helping people throughout the country, learning how to plant, when to plant, why to plant, and how to take care of the soil to grow whitetail deer, to give them the nutrition they need, not only during the summer times, but in the spring when they're lactating or buck's horns are starting to grow. It's a year-round business, folks. And it's a year-round endeavor for each one of you. Sit back, relax, enjoy John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. Good morning, folks. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host and executive producer of Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, we're heading out to the Madison, Wisconsin area, which I'll be there in a couple of weeks. And we're going to talk to John O'Brien. Now, John's been a guest on my show for a number of times, and John is the owner of Grandpa Ray Outdoors. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today, Bruce.
Hey, I love it. And folks, John is zipping down the highway or zipping down County Road KK, headed to the farm, and he's on his way to a tree stand. So this is going to be about 30 minutes or until he pulls into the parking lot. Then we're going to call it a show. And John, I'm just excited to have you here, and I'm excited to see you at our meetup coming up pretty darn close in a few weeks. So, John, let's just kick it right off and tell us, just give an overview, what's up with Grandpa Ray?
Yeah, Grandpa Ray Outdoors, we started a few years ago to try to educate the public, also raise money for other worthy causes, and basically just trying to get people to do a little better and think a little bit differently with their food plots and their wildlife management programs.
You know, in the warm-up, we talked about a couple of different things, and let's just start off with section 1. Set your food plot for 2000, or pardon me, set up your food plots now for 2018. What does that mean?
Yeah, so many people just wait till right before they're ready to plant to take their soil test. And now's a great time. And getting out there, taking that soil test, find out where you're at now and what you're going to need to do. One of the main things people are aware of is if you're low on pH, you need the lime. Well, lime, a standard egg lime, takes up to 6 months to effectively work. If you're going to plant some food plots in the spring, especially those perennial clovers, alfalfas, and things that require a little higher pH, you really need to consider putting your lime down. Case in point, look out in the landscape in the farming community. You see these big trucks out there spreading egg lime now. You don't see them spreading egg lime right in the spring, right a couple days before these farmers are planting. So get a soil test now. If you haven't had a recent test, let's get our lime out there, this fall or right after hunting season. And another thing that I want to add as part of the equation that I strive to educate people on, you might have a great looking perennial plot, clover, alfalfa plot out there now that you're looking over as you're hunting, but you need to winterize it. Just like with your lawn, you need to winterize those food plots. And what I mean by winterizing is one of the biggest things you need to do is get potassium out there. In a generic standard little rule of thumb, I usually tell my clients is about 200 pounds of a straight potassium in the fall to help your perennial clovers persist through the winter, because who wants to have to replant your clovers, right?
You got that right.
So those are a couple little tips that I do. Get the soil test, get lime down if need, winterize your food plots. But then actually one last little thing I should probably bring up is when you're out there in that stand, you're looking over these plots, do you see problem areas? You might have some great areas in the field, maybe some areas that don't look as good, maybe look yellow, whatever. Maybe flag them off, put stakes out there. And if you do have to soil sample, focus on those. Don't eliminate those areas, because who has a field that's completely even? You rarely see it. So focus on scouting your field to help yourself in the future.
John, we got the rut coming up in just a few weeks, and guys I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm hunting. I got to get my stand at Ergo, just like you are this morning. So, at how do I do this? How do I carve out the time? Because I know that buck's going to come past my stand if I'm not sitting in it. How do I carve that out?
Yeah, and there's so much technology out there too that you can do. And so, for example, in a little while here, I'll be sitting in a tree overlooking a field, and of course, when you're out in that area, you don't want to be over hunting that area. But when you're out in that tree, I mean, your eyes will tell you a lot. The deer will tell you a lot. If deer continually focus on eating forages in one area, it's probably because your soil's healthier there. Your forages are doing better there. They're more palatable. But, beyond that, too, there's also technologies. I'm not telling you to do this as you're actually supposed to be focusing on the hunting, but there's apps like farmlogs.com where you can, when you get back in after that hunt, you can look back and see your problem spots in your field from satellite imagery. That's something you can do. Maybe it's a rainy day. You can't get out and hunt. You're like, God, I should be hunting. Use technology. You can see what's happening out there in the real app, your field, and I'm going to throw that out there again. It's farmlogs.com. It's a site I use. A great little tool.
The other thing some of my friends have used is they take pictures of where they see does and fawns the majority of the time on their fields. And they go, exactly what you just said. But once you figure that out, you go, okay, when everything settles down or, whatever, I'm going to go in there and do X, Y, and Z to find out, is there a lot of water? Is the pH balance spot on? Did I overseed, underseed? What's going on? But if you take pictures, folks, of where you're seeing most of the deer activity, deer feeding, then that's going to give you some, insight exactly what John's saying. Your thoughts, John?
Yeah, and there's also other little tools too. Like I have a refractometer. And for those of you guys that don't know what a refractometer is, it's actually a tool that you can use even in the wine industry and but in for the food plot community, you'll actually take a little sample of a forage. You're going to measure its sugar content. So deer like us have sweet tooth, and what tends to be healthier is going to be sweeter. And so if you've got a strip, you're like of one mix, and you're like, God, the deer just don't seem to be eating it. And you get another area like these deer are really concentrating in this area. You want to learn? It's not an expensive tool, and you can find out for yourself, a little bit of science behind why are the deer, eating what they are when they are. So that's another tool. And for me, again, like you brought up the taking pictures, I take a lot of pictures when I'm in the stand. And the naked eye, I mean, you see what you see, but when you actually go back and look at some of these pictures you take, you get a little bit different perspective, with the different colorings and shadings and that you just don't notice instantly from a visual perspective from your stand. So, there's just a lot of tools that you can use that don't cost much money or no money.
Okay, let's recap this first section, because I want to stay on task so I can get you in the tree stand pretty quick. So let's just recap what you said in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. So the sum up, in the fall is look at what your eyes are telling you, what the deer are telling you. The deer do not lie. Think ahead. Don't just think about the now. What do you need to do to have success, in the future? And again, soil test. Get your potassiums out there in the fall, and if you need the lime, let's get it out there yet this fall. And if you don't want to be in some of these fields during hunting season, not a big deal. You can get them out there. It could be, middle of December or early January, but get your lime out as much in advance as you can before planting next spring. These things that many overlook.
And then the refractometer and then the farm log.
Yeah, refractometer again, Google it. It's a nice little tool that will cost you about $45 to measure sugar content of anything you plant. And again, farmlogs.com. It's a great site, that you could spend a little money or you could also use the free edition. And it basically gives you digital satellite imagery that shows your good spots in your field or your weak spots out there. And again, it helps you scout that field from using technology.
Thanks for that, John. And we're going to move right into the most, in my opinion, not my opinion, folks, but the most critical time of year to put your food plot to work, and that's the springtime. Why? Because the does are lactating and the bucks are starting to grow their horns. And, the cycle begins again. So, John, let's talk about that. Let's wade in and give us some thoughts of how best we can all look to the spring and make sure we get the right food in the ground.
Yeah, and so the industry and so many people focus on food plotting as like an attractant, focusing on the fall to kill that nice deer. But for those that want to do better, for those that are trying to grow healthier does, bigger fawns, put extra inches on that buck, again, it starts in the fall with working on your soil. It starts by having healthier forages that are more nutritious on protein, energy, mineral content. When those does are dropping the fawns, and those bucks are growing their antlers. And in the industry, there's so many people that focus on winter wheat, winter rye. Time and a place for it. It grows fast in the spring, but is it truly top end nutrition, or is it ground cover? The one thing I bring up to people is rye can be great, but it might be great for a week. And then within a week or two, 10 days, if the weather's really warm with a lot of moisture, the proteins will plunge, the mineral contents will plunge. Yeah, you'll get a lot of growth, but are you offering nutrition? And if you really pay attention, these deer will shut down on that once it doesn't become desirable. So what do you want to do? You could be frost seeding perennial plots. You could be overseeding and thickening in your existing clover plots, having perennials planted early. Another little thing that I talk about with people too is you might be a new food plotter. You might have a new area. Let's plant a fast growing, it could even be a blend of annual clovers that are high in protein, fast growing, really nutritious. One other thing that I have a lot of clients doing, planting things like a soil builder mix that is not just great for nutrition, but it also will grow fast, suppress weeds, fixate nitrogen, and of course, if your buddy runs a local fertilizer plant, again, you're just not going to have to spend so much money, for your fall fertilization. If you are, fixating nitrogen naturally. So focusing on spring, getting ground covered with great nutrition, but also great agronomics, which help you not just in the now, but in the future. And that's what nutrition is. It all starts in the spring. And in my opinion, not enough emphasis in the industry is focused on those essential areas and times there.
Do you look to does and fawns first to feed them up to make sure that does have good food as soon as they drop their fawns, or are you looking at bucks?
Yeah. Okay. So here, that's a great little topic that I'm going to be talking more about at seminars moving forward. For those guys that are trying to do quality deer management, their own type of management, habitat management, bucks. Everybody, I mean, who doesn't want to see a really nice buck? But what? But how do you get from point A to point B? That fawn, that nice buck that you might harvest in 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 years, its growth curve is affected with what happens with that doe. Just like in the other animal industry, dairy farmer, the most important time is for the dry cow, for poultry, swine, whatever. People overlook that most critical time, is once, that doe drops that fawn. If that doe lactates heavier, how does that affect the growth of the fawn? If that fawn goes into the winter in better condition, and if there's great nutrition, 365 days on that property, how does that affect the year one? How does it affect it year two and moving forward? And so the most important thing is that doe, which indirectly affects the fawn, which indirectly, has a factor. I mean, you don't grow a big buck, in 30 days. You don't grow a big buck in 60 days. And again, I don't get why there isn't more emphasis on, having top end nutrition that'll help a doe lactate heavier at that point in time.
Thanks for that, John. And one thing I'm interested in, I don't know a heck of a lot about it. That's one reason you're on the show. But let's talk about using plantains and or Egyptian wheat for screening. And folks, this is something that you really need to listen to because it can make a huge difference of you hunting your food plots.
Yeah, screening. You hear talk about screening in Egyptian wheat as one of the most common species that is discussed with screening because it grows tall. It tends not to lodge if you fertilize it right. But here's a couple of little tips I want to throw out there as we've noticed this year in different areas across the United States where we had a little below normal temperatures, for an extended period of time early. Most of these screening products are warm season forages. They need heat. They don't germ well. They don't grow well when your soils are only 55, 60 degrees. If you happen to get a late frost, it will kill them off. So you want to wait till the ground is about 65 degrees to plant them. Fertilizing correctly to keep them standing. So many people focus on nitrogen, but you want to also, you keep hearing me bring up potassium a lot. We also want to be using more potassium than the people typically do on their screening products. Generic recommendation. I tend to use about 100, and of course, it goes back to the disclaimer. Take a soil test. We'll give you recommendations based on your situation, but I like using a lot of like a 1818 fertilizer. Could be 100 pounds per acre being enough. Some cases 150 pounds an acre. But we want to fertilize these screenings so that they don't just grow tall, which is a big benefit of using the nitrogen, but they also stand, they don't lodge, they don't tip over. Another part I want to talk about is so many people just use Egyptian wheat. What I use is a blend of Egyptian wheat, another forage sorghum that doesn't lodge, along with pearl millet, which grows 7 feet tall and tends not to tip over, as well as WGF grain sorghum, which only grows 3 to 4 feet tall. But I tell people, look at it as like a building. If you build a house, do you just use 10-foot beams that run straight up and down 10 feet tall, and then with the cross pieces and that? And the answer is no, because a big wind will blow it down. So we want to build your screenings like you're building a house, and that's what I tend to do by using 4 different species for screening. And again, some of you guys may have seen on social media, I've posted different videos live from my deer stand showing people how I set up my property. And another little thing besides screening, a lot of people use screening just to help get in and out of your deer stands. But a lot of people don't consider screening as a way for big bucks, nice bucks, to not glass the whole field. You don't want a deer to look over a big area and not see does out there, because otherwise it might head down the road to your neighbors. Maybe it'll go to a different area where you don't want that buck to go. You want to create a deer highway. You want to keep these does moving around your property so you have more bucks. Did I say doe? I might have misspoke. Sorry about that. Keep these bucks moving around your property so that you have more buck sightings. And again, screening can also help you with doing that exact thing.
John, I probably misspoke when I said plantain. It just popped into my mind. Hey, listeners, if it's not a screening tool, I apologize. John, what is plantain?
Yeah, I don't use plant. I use plantain in a lot of different areas, different clients. We don't have it as part of the regular lineup, but we do sell plantain. And for some of you that out there that have used it, you are gonna you're probably smiling because not many people talk about it. But very high mineral content, high protein content, very desirable. Bruce, you spoke about the spring for does. Okay, here's what I've observed here in the last 3 years of plantain. And there's other forbs that are similar that have benefits that people aren't as aware of. Plantain in the spring is the first thing that tends to green up. And out on the Grandpa Ray's farm, we'll see both bucks and does heavily consuming plantain first before moving on, to picking out the different clovers and alfalfas and so on and so forth. In the fall, as the does are out there eating in your brassica plots and your scrape lines and your clover alfalfa blends, the areas where I have a higher concentration of plantain, those bucks are in there, heavier than even the does. Why is that? Because the testosterone levels are ramping up for these bucks. They got a lot of work coming ahead. It's great nutrition. And again, depending on how you fertilize your soil and all that, it's just a very desirable forage for about a 3-4 week period of time in the fall, especially during this time, before we get into November. They will tend to move off the plantain as things get a little later and move into your chicories and some of your other forbs and species. But as people observe, now is prime time for bucks hammering the plantain out there on those fields.
And thanks for that, John. And if somebody wants to get your monthly newsletter, what do they need to do?
Yeah, we've made a couple changes that I'm gonna. Even you probably aren't aware of, Bruce. But We're moving. We've had yearly membership for Grandpa Ray's where we charge $20 a year. You also get access to private O'Brien Education Series videos and seminars. You get a monthly newsletter that comes out at the 15th of the month. You get access to a private forum area. But what we are going towards here to streamline things a little bit is because we want to educate as many people as we can. Maybe not everybody is willing to pay the $20 to get this, elite and next level tips and nutrition. So people are going to be able to get my newsletter for free. You just got to email me at Grandpa Ray's 365 at gmail.com, or you could call me at 608-235-0628. We're actually going to be giving everybody an opportunity to get the monthly newsletter for free. We're going to continue the Grandpa Ray's program membership, where if you pay your $20 a year, there's going to be a silver membership and a gold membership where you'll be able to get a bunch of additional benefits beyond the ones I've mentioned, beyond the newsletter, beyond the 10% off any of your orders throughout the year. There's a lot of program specials people get and a lot of other benefits. So basically, we want to touch as many people as we can, whether you're willing to pay a little bit for the service or if you just want some basic, tips to follow every month. We're willing to help everybody in our own little ways.
And again, your email address?
Yeah, it's Grandpa Ray. So, Grandpa, GRANDPARAYS 365 at gmail.com.
And your phone number?
608-235-0628. And there is one other way you could sign up for the program. Our website is www.grandparayoutdoors.com. And there's a cart area there that has all of our different products there that you could buy online if you don't have a dealer nearby. And there's also an area where you can sign up for the newsletter in there as well.
Thanks for that, John. And folks, John's helped me on the farm that I hunt. We've got 40 acres now that we own within the farm, which is kind of exciting. And so we're doing a lot of habitat improvement. And last spring we put in some trail. I don't know what you call it. I'm just calling it
logging trails mix.
Yeah, logging trail mix, and it was going really good until we had some floods. We've had a lot of rain in Wisconsin this year. We couldn't even timber it because we couldn't get in the skidder, and so it didn't work well. But I've still got plenty for next year, so I'm going to be looking forward to getting that back down. One trail it worked into that was in the farm. It wasn't on a ridge, and the ridge one just got washed out. But the farm connection logging trail came up, and I expected, the deer have been hammering it. We don't have trail cameras over there, but it's going to be interesting to see, how much they've been pounding it when I get on. I'll be there in a couple of weeks. So just to let you know, I use John's product, and I paid for John's product. So there you go, John.
There you go. Thank you. And the one thing I want to just disclaimer there too is we have numerous mixes, and logging trail mix is, for areas where there's extreme shade, poor soil. Maybe you're going to drive over it quite a bit with that four-wheeler to go out there to, when you shot that nice buck and that. But yet there's some other mixes that are better nutrition even and more desirable to hunt over. Logging trail mix does have some really good genetics. There's things there that the deer will eat. But then again, it's also, set up for if you can't get that to grow, you're going to have a hard time getting anything to grow. And it's a dual purpose product, So it's not just nutrition. It's to keep things growing in those areas that are typically hard to get anything to grow.
Yeah, and high shade, folks. Climax canopy, and it just blocks out the sun, and it's always wet, or moist. And that's why John said, try this, see how it works, and so far so good.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with Grandpa Ray's. We got I don't know where we're at right now, maybe 16 different food plot blends, and there's a time and a place for everything. And again, my little thing I bring up to people is no matter how fresh, no matter how good our seed is, it's still up to you to do better, to know how to do better, to know how to do the basic steps to have success with whatever you plant. There's no silver bullet in the industry. It's like, you can have a great mix and turn it into a poor situation. You can have a cheaper mix and be a great food plotter and do everything right and still make it turn out to look really nice. But again, there's a difference between nutrition and attraction and also ground cover. Because you could have a food plot that looks really nice, but if the deer don't eat it, what good is it? So, and so just going back one more time, that's why you haven't heard me talk about soil much today, Bruce, but that's where it all starts. And again, everybody focuses on what they see above the ground. But the most important thing with any of your seed plantings is what you plant it into, because Mother Nature always comes into play, and it's not magic. It might sound boring to some people, but again, learn more about the soil, do a better job with your fertilization, and that's my advice of the day.
And I'll say this: if you're not going to your local ag co-op or ag extension and getting materials and talking to people, take somebody that's running the ag extension or the co-op, to breakfast, lunch. It doesn't matter. Spend time with these guys because they see everything. And they're working with farmers that, like our farm, it's the third generation is now running the farm. So they kind of sort of know. But here we are, 3, 4, 5 years into this food plot explosion. Some might say a little longer, but where we come from, about 5 years, just an explosion. And because of that, you're accountable for your own land. John's not going to, as he said, he's not a silver bullet. He'll tell you, but you're going to put all the labor in. You're going to put the work in. And if you screwed up, you just blew $100 or more money. And if you just say, "Oh, this was good enough," it isn't. And so, spend some time this winter talking to the co-op guy, talking to the ag extension guy, and saying, this didn't work out so well. And guess what he's going to say? Okay, what's your soil test? Well, on this field it was this, but I didn't do the other field. And what was the difference? And all of a sudden you're going to say, "Oh, I got lazy." And I'm not saying any of you guys or gals are lazy, but you got to pay attention to it. You've got to know the seasons, just like the farmers. They know when they got to fertilize. They know when they got to disc. They know when they got to do all the stuff. Harvesting's easy. Getting a tractor and your harvest. I mean, that's pretty easy. But sometimes it's the hardest part of the whole thing with food plots is waiting.
Well, good point you made there, Bruce. Yeah, I mean, patience is, there's so many people that want to see it as a success. The one thing that I do bring up a lot is the farming community. Most people that they buy seed from are agronomists, specialists, and they recommend the best thing for your own situation. The wildlife industry typically is, hey, here's our bag of seed, buy it. It worked for your neighbor, it worked for a celebrity, it worked for Joe Smith. My point is, yes, you could get lucky, you could have success, but you're gambling. How about work with somebody? You know what? I can't work with everybody, but there's a lot of really smart people out there. There's people that they have done this for a living. They do it for a living, 24/7, 365 days a year. Find these guys, whether it be a crop advisor, a whatever kind of wildlife consultant. But yet, there's a lot of companies that guys don't do this for a living. They don't have much agronomy background. They put together a seed blend. They sell it to you. You have a problem, you call them. Will they give you an answer? Give you an honest answer based on science. That's my challenge to people. You don't work with me. Buy from somebody that when things go right, great. But if things go wrong, work with somebody that can help you get them going back in the right direction, because that's what farmers do nowadays. Mother Nature will come into play, like you mentioned, Bruce. You had flooding, and you could have drought, you could have heat. Whatever happens, let's get answers. Let's get things going the right way when things go wrong, because things will happen. It's inevitable, as we've been seeing across the United States this year.
And one thing I'd like to say, you can go to big box stores and buy XYZ, and and there's a personality on the front of the bag. Okay, fine, I get that. That's marketing. But you're buying 25 pounds of seed, not, because you got coatings and you got fillers. And if you go down, you may be, and John, correct me, you may be getting someplace south of 20 pounds of seed, but you're paying the full $25 price. And see, that's the other thing. You've got to understand what the heck you're buying, because you don't go to a big box store unless you've done all your homework. You look at the tag and you say, okay, I want this, protein content, all these other things. It's right on the tag, but you've already done your homework and said, okay, I'll go to a big box store and this is what I'm looking for. I get it written down or on my smartphone. And I go, okay, if it doesn't have this, this, and this, I'm not going to buy it. Plus, cost compare. If you put 5 of those bags, 4 of those bags, that's 100 pounds times X. That's a couple bucks. Where you can go to somebody like John, and I'm thinking, what the heck's Robbie's name? Arrowseed. He's out in Nebraska. Really good guy. I've spent some time with him in hunt camp. Just a good guy. And he, like John, he understands the process. And he's the one that talked to me about coating. Why you have coating? Because you're drilling it. Farmers are drilling the seed. And so it helps it slip through the nozzle where it drills it in. That's why they have coating. But it takes away from the weight. Well, coating, how much is that? Well, when you're doing 100-pound bags, it might be a couple percentage points. And then the fillers. So, folks, all we're saying here today is I didn't know nothing about this till I kind of saddled up with John a couple of years ago, and he's teaching me every single month about it. And then I have different people on the show that are in the business. And what happens is you start to learn, and learning makes you better. And if you get better, guess what happens to your deer herd? They get better. John?
And that's the thing that I say to people is just get educated, know what you buy. There's something out there for everybody. And and again, whether it be a big box store, whether it be a co-op, whether it be a private company like myself or a more nationally well-known celebrity endorsed company, you know what? There's nothing wrong with any of those companies. Find a good fit for you. But what I at Grandpa Ray's have been striving to do is what I've been doing my whole career is consulting versus selling. So if you just want to buy a product and not worry about any other expertise behind it, not a big deal. Those are the companies you want to buy from. But for those that want to get another level of free expertise, there's companies that do offer that as well. There's companies that are willing to take time to answer the phone, to talk about whatever you need. And that's, in my brain, called trying to do better. Because why not get educated? Why not know what a seed tag, how to read a seed tag? Why not challenge yourself to just do a little better every month, every year?
Well said, John. And folks, I kind of, pontificated a little bit there, but that's important. And I'm learning. And so every one of you out there can learn. And nobody knows it all. John doesn't know it all. If you sit with John, have a cup of coffee, he'll go, what about this? And gee, I didn't think about that. That's who John is. He's an educator, and he's got over 25 years as an agronomist for cattle. He's been in the business a long time. And so, yeah, I count him as a friend, but he's also a professional. Are there other guys out there and gals out there that know the business? Heck yeah. They just haven't been on my show. So if you're one of those people, come on my show. It's really that easy.
And I'd strongly recommend them to go to Bruce, because the great little thing you said is it's great to have different opinions. And that's why I surround myself with a lot of other experts in the industry and that's why I also do my education plots and our test plots around the United States. Is if you think you know it all and you think you have all the answers, that's a disservice to your client base. I always say, even though I've been in this for a long time, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm sure as heck going to find out. And that's why I love every day I step into my education plot. I'm always learning something new that I can help convey to my client base.
Well said. We're going to wrap up the show with something that John and I started off our conversation in the warm-up, and that's the joy he is getting from the first-time hunter when he gets the picture, the grip and grin of a young man, a young woman that's sitting on one of his food plots, and they put their first doe down. They put their first buck down. Because at that age, it doesn't matter if it's got horns or not, folks. It really doesn't. A deer down is a deer down, and they've accomplished something that a lot of people will never accomplish. Let's weigh into that, John.
Yeah, and that's I did a post today on a client out in Pennsylvania. His daughter's 9 years old, shot a really nice deer, and they're also a first-time food plotter. daughter, and he's like, I planted this your mass builder product. My daughter shot this buck in this plot. I get pictures and testimonials all the time, and of course, my heading there was, "This is my Giro celebrity endorsement." To me, that's who the true celebrities are. Whether it's a doe or whether it's a 4 point buck or whatever it is, especially that first deer that a youth has shot. We all have been there. We remember how many of us, our first deer was this monster buck. The industry is infatuated with that picture, seeing these huge deer, but that's not where we started. Just think back the amount of satisfaction you got with shooting that doe or that spike buck. Those in my brain, my clients that I'm able to post those pictures, I consider those my celebrity endorsements, and that's what I voiced to Bruce earlier and what I posted today. I love it. I can't get enough seeing it. That's what drives me.
And with that, folks, we're going to wrap up. Before we go, John's going to give us his one big thing when he goes hunting. What is that, John?
Well, I'm sitting here now, ready to go in the house and take a scent-off shower, and I also will be gargling with baking soda and water because your breath produces a lot of potential harmful scents that the deer could smell. So everybody talks about scent off, but yet, to be complete scent off, think beyond the shower, think beyond putting your clothes in whatever, a system that you're using in place. Consider your breath. That's what I'll be doing. Why take chances? And again, one other last little thing is as I slowly walk to my stand, I don't want to get all sweaty. I don't want to just stomp through there like it sounds like a herd of elephants are walking to my stand. Take the time, look at nature. Maybe you'll spot some things, in your food plots as you're trying to get into your stand. Be patient. It's not a race. Don't cut corners.
And thanks for that. And one thing that I read an article a long time ago by Chuck Adams, I mean, really a long time ago, and I was questioning why he has that beanie on all the time. Well, what he does, or what he did, it's part of his logo now, it's part of his brand, so I don't know if he still does it, but he would take baking soda and put it in his beanie and then put his beanie on his head, and he would never take it off. Okay, how many, raise your hands here, folks, how many hustle to the stand because they're running late and they know this is going to be the prime day and the front just went through and they're hustling, they get up in the stand and they go, oh. So they're kind of unbuttoning stuff, and then they take off their hat, they take off their beanie, they take off their head net, whatever. You just dumped a bunch of scent in the air. I know most of you understand that, but like over 50% of all the heat in your body goes right out the top of your heads. I think it's a little higher than that, but I don't want to misquote myself. So think about those things. Okay, how can I minimize? Yeah, ozonics helps, and there's plenty of products on the market that help, take our scent down. But it's the little things. If you're hunting mature bucks, it's the little things they're going to kick you in the butt, not the big things, because we all know the big things, but it's the little things. And what John just said, your mouth, and the other thing I've learned about is how much scent comes out of your nose. Think about it. Your thoughts, John, and then we'll wrap the show.
I think you spoke really effectively. I don't think I can add anything to it, Bruce. I mean, focus on the little things. Don't overlook a lot of these things that you brought up that you have been. And that can make a difference between seeing that trophy buck or not. And again, if you bust a big buck one time, it might be the last time you see him. So be patient, be smart, and good luck to everybody out there this fall.
Well, good luck to you. Are you by the farm yet or not?
We're waiting. So when you're done with me, Bruce, I'm going to be taking my sun-off shower. We're going to be doing everything we just talked about, and we're going to patiently get into a stand because if you look at the chart, it might not be a bad day today.
Wow, and that opens a whole nother can of worms. We're not going to dance for that one. But on behalf of thousands of listeners and folks, we're really close to 200,000 downloads. 200,000 fills up Lambeau Field almost 3 different times. So if you're a Packer backer like I am, that's a lot of people have listened to my show, and I just want to say thank you. But it's people like John O'Brien that makes your show what it is. And so, John, again, thank you so much, sir.
Yep. Have a great day.
We're heading out to Utah, and we're going to talk to Chelsea Wilke. Now, Chelsea's a good friend of mine, and she's also being sponsored these days by Vanguard and Skeleton Optics. And she's on the team of Real Camel Girls. What's all that mean? Well, Chelsea is one fine huntress. She's a lady of the outdoors, and she loves to hunt with her husband over there in central Utah. Fact is, recently she went up in the mountains and hunted elk, didn't get one, but her husband sure got a nice mule deer buck with his muzzleloader. And she's going to go out this coming Saturday, and that would be October 22nd. And she's going to hunt up a fine mule deer for herself. Chelsea brings a lot to the game, a lot to the table, and you're going to enjoy our discussion about women in the outdoors with Chelsea Wilke.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.